Hi class, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to UV unwrap an object. This will be the first one that we're going to completely UV unwrap to have its own unique UV layout. In a later class we're going to go through and we're going to create texture images for it. So in this case we're using the column we made in a previous week. If I come up here and I just put an unwrap UVW on it and open the UV editor, this is what I see, right? So I see something highlighted, so let's just zoom out. This is kind of what basic UVs sometimes end up like. A lot of times, as I showed you previously, if I go to Create and Box, you see how there's a little check mark for Generate Mapping Coordinates? That's on by default. A lot of the spline tools, when you go to make something, they work in a similar fashion. They already have like that base set of UVs. So we could come in here with the Open UV Editor, and I'm going to come down here to Arrange and Elements and click Pack Custom, and then click on Zoom to zoom in. All right, and that kind of took everything I had and kind of packed it in here. So that's one way to kind of get started. If there's other ways you could do it, I will sometimes put a UVW map on and set it to, or leave it at the default of planar, but change the alignment so it's kind of projecting it from the front and then square off the values. So I'll just type in like 512 by 512, and then right click and say convert to editable poly. Now I baked that in, I made that change permanent. Let's put an unwrap on and open UV editor, and now we see it projected here. Again, as always, I go into options, preferences, and I turn off that selection preview. Click OK. Now this object is made out of multiple elements. If I'm in polygon here, so let's open that up so you can see those. If I double click on something, it'll select that entire element. Okay. So I could come down to Arrange Elements and hit Pack Custom, and that will separate those pieces out. Let's also go up here. I'm going to turn off Show Active Map in the dialog because I don't want to see that checker pattern. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the top of this box here, right at the top of the column, and just go to this peel section and do the quick peel. And that's just going to take that and just project that out flat. It's going to try and lay that out as flat as it possibly can. It does tend to like to rotate it though. Just going to rotate that, move it over to the side. I'm going to do that for Control R to orbit. I'm going to grab this one here, and then I'm going to orbit and grab these two bottom pieces and orbit those as well. As I go, I will hit Pack Custom, so it kind of packs things. It is good habit to get into to take your pieces and rotate them so that they're kind of flat, right? Because this will help fit things in a little tighter, right? Oops. You want to make sure you have nothing selected when you do Pack Custom, so it tries to pack them all together. All right. So we have kind of the tops and bottoms; those are separated. We need to unwrap all this. There's an easy way to handle that. I'm just going to select one edge here, and under selection there's actually loop. If you hover over it, it'll tell you what they are, and ring selection. So I'm going to hit ring, so it grabs every parallel edge going around, and then I'm going to hit loop. So now if I come down here and hit orbit, you can see that just those edges are selected. So I'm going to come up here and use this peel tool. And so if I click and convert edge selection to seams, I now have these peel seams there. What that means is if I just double click on this, right, it's going to double click on all those areas, and I hit peel, it's going to peel them. So now they're all laid out, you know, kind of as the software is doing the best job it can to rotate them. I wonder if I turn on angle snap if that'll help, if these are at 5-degree increments. It looks like they're not. So I'm just trying, they don't have to be perfectly straight. Oops. There we go. Now let's pack that again. So it is also a good habit after you peel select something. I'm going to turn on select by element and click on, I'm holding control to select multiples. I'm going to go tools, relax. There's different ways to relax. I like to, there is the unfold 3D optimize. If you click apply, it's going to kind of do its thing. The more complex the object, the longer it'll take. This is very simple, so it went really fast. There's also relax by polygon angle. If I hit apply, what's happening here is the software is trying to, when you're using relax, it's trying to take the different pieces of geometry we have, and it's trying to lay them out as, get the polygons back to their original shape in 3D space as efficiently as it can. Right now, sometimes that goes real easy because this is a very simple object. There's no pinching or anything, so it's easy to do it. When you get into more complex shapes, it could be a little weird. We'll see that in a little bit. Let's go to edge, click on this edge here, and hit ring, and then hit loop. And then I'm going to convert my edge selection to seams over here under peel. And then again, I'm going to go to polygon, double click on that base, and hit peel. Right click to move, and I'm just going to grab, oops, each of these. Oh, remember I still have select by element on. Let's turn that off. Rotate that a little bit. Kind of want to try and get them sort of straight. And then pack custom. All right. So some people, depending on how they work, what their workflow is, they like to keep it so that all like the base polygons are all kind of, when you look at it, everything sort of matches, right? So like, let's grab these guys and rotate them 180, rotate them 180. If we want to make sure the tops of the columns were always at the top, we could rotate these 180, and then we can pack again. Sometimes it really just depends on the workflow and what you're trying to accomplish. For some things, you're going to want to, you could get things packed in tighter. Let's turn on select by element. If I have these things rotate like flipped and then I pack, you'll see that they may pack a little better. And that actually looks worse. So who knows? Let's flip these two, see if that gets any better. Maybe. We'll wait. I'm not going to worry about how much dead space there is until we're completely finished. All right, so let's move over here. What I did was I shifted over because I want to see the bottom corner of my viewport. I turned on orbit. I'm going to click inside that circle. I want to know where the y-axis is. Right, and that's here in the back. What I'm going to do is click on one edge on my column. I'm going to hit, I want loop. I just want to grab the loop. I just want one edge, ideally the one on the back side of it. And I have that one edge selected. I'm going to hit convert edge selection to seams. And then I'm going to polygon, and I can click on this guy. And now I want to get this cylinder laid out completely flat, so I'll hit quick peel. I'll rotate it so it's straight. We could just go with this, right? Like this would probably be fine. We could pack it and everything. You could try to peel it or to relax it and see what happens. So let's just click on the cylinder here. I'll move it over to the side. So let's try the Unfold 3D Optimize and see what happens. It actually does a pretty good job. It does curl it up on the sides. Right? You'll get a different result if you do relax by polygon. And you can relax it more than once. You see how it keeps trying to get those back to the original shape, and if you do it too much, everything starts to fall apart. Let's go back to Unfold 3D, and that'll just fix that right up. All right. So I think this is probably okay. If you really wanted to, I'm going to turn off select by element. I'm going to go into edge. You could go through and double click on an edge here and do align horizontal. If you go through and do that for each one of these rows, I'm going to do it based on the side because it gets a little tricky to know which one you're selecting after a while. If you do that over on the side, it is going to make them all straight across horizontal. That's not necessarily important though. It will really depend on how you want to texture this. If you want to have any kind of pattern, on the main body that would repeat left to right, then you probably want to do that. So since I started, I'll just go through and finish it. So let's double click on that edge. Sometimes I move whenever I'm selecting up close to that tool if I'm doing this on multiples. There's some tools that in here that are supposed to help you do this kind of work where you're kind of offsetting them by alignment. That would be these. They really don't work reliably though, so I don't like to really talk about them because I don't use them because I do not get consistent results with them. All right, there we go. So I kind of line those all up. Like I said, that's not entirely. If you just plan to slap marble on this or some kind of sandstone or something, you really don't need to do that. All right, let's pack everything in. All right, and what that does, pack custom, is it takes all of the different elements, right? And each one of these is a UV element, or in some software they call it UV shells. Right? The arrange elements takes them, and you can even try it with rotate. We'll go through and rotate them to try and get them to match. I don't think that's what we want though, just in case we have anything that kind of goes left to right. But it tries to pack them in here as tight as possible. You could then, if we wanted to get more padding space in there, you could do there's a button to kind of pad them out a little bit more. And you could adjust that if you think they need a little bit more. If I do 0.005, that'll space them out even more. Really, you just don't want them to overlap in here when you are doing, now let's clarify this. If you plan to make a custom and unique texture set for an object, where every pixel is going to be uniquely created to have some sort of image data for it, then you don't really want them to overlap unless you're planning for that. Now, in this case, and I did show you some examples of that in the original lecture, you could go back and look at my notes on that. Primarily, the snake lamp is an example of that, as well as the Masosaurus model I did, where I reused pixel data for the spine along multiple sections. But here now, in this version that I've created, what you're seeing is everything's uniquely laid out. I could even double check that by doing select overlap polygons. Now, I'm only checking for overlap on this version where everything's meant to be unique. We are going to do tiling textures. Like for example, when we did the tiling block, that did have overlap, but that's okay because we weren't going to create a unique UV set for that, right? Everything was tiling, it was using existing textures. So it's a difficult concept to understand, and over time it will start to click in, but I'm starting to try and drive that home now. All right, so there you go, there's your column. There's its UVs. So what I want you to do is go ahead and take a snip of this, right? And I want it just like this, right? I want to see your column and I want to see the UV set as well. All right. And after that, before you're done, just right click on your column and say convert to edit poly and then save it. All right. So there you go. That's how to UV unwrap a column.